Welcome to the Royal Dragon Court with me, Abby de Vere, author of The Royal Dragon Court, Inbred Britain, owner of the secret knowledge of the Royal Dragon Court and Dragon Bloodlines. Have you ever wondered how and why each of the 6 wives of Henry VIII were chosen? Within my book, Inbred Britain, I take you on a journey into the tangled web of the royal lineage. Throughout the pages, I show you how most of royalty is in fact already related, why the royal courts chose certain marriages to preserve their bloodlines and wealth. It was never about love. It was about ensuring money and power stayed in the same family. How Henry VIII's wives were related, the families behind the queens. When people talk about Henry VIII's 6 wives, they're usually told as 6 separate stories. 6 unrelated women who simply happened to marry the same king. But if you actually look at the families, you see something else entirely. Henry didn't just marry women. He married into power blocks, dynasties and clans. And the court kept recycling the same bloodlines because those were the families who had access to the king, access to influence, and the ambition to place a daughter close enough to become queen. So let's do this properly, not as a list of wives, but as 6 families and the links between them. The Spanish royal house, Catherine of Aragon. Catherine of Aragon comes from a world bigger than England. She is born of the Spanish royal dynasty, the children of Ferdinand and Isabella, and she arrives in England not as a courtier's daughter, but as European royalty. Her marriage is not a private affair. It's a treaty in human form. And here's the key point for the "how are they related" question. Catherine's long reign makes her the root household of Henry's adult court. A queen's household is not just servants and ladies. It is a training ground and a pipeline. The women who become prominent later often pass through that orbit, as attendants, as ladies in waiting, or as young noblewomen, placed where politics could watch them. So while Catherine is not cousin to the later English wives in a simple village family tree way, she is connected through the structure of queenship. Her court is the stage on which the English factions learn how to play for the crown. And it is in and around her court that the next families position their daughters. And the moment Henry turns away from Catherine, he isn't turning toward a random new world. He's turning toward a family already embedded in the court machine. The Howard Boleyn power block. Anne Boleyn. Annie Boleyn's story is often told like a romance. The clever woman who captivated the king. But genealogically and politically, Anne is the product of a power block, the Boleyns rising and the Howards already mighty. Anne's mother is Elizabeth Howard. That surname matters. The Howards are not minor gentry. They are one of the great noble dynasties of England, the kind of family that doesn't just serve the crown but expects to shape it. Through the Howards, Anne is instantly plugged into a network of cousins, uncles, and allies who occupy top positions. And here comes one of the most important factual links between the wives. The Howard family gives Henry 2 queens, because Catherine Howard, later wife number 5, is Anne Boleyn's close blood relative through that same Howard line. This is not vague, connected talk. It is the same dynastic clan placing another girl before the king within a decade. So Anne isn't simply wife number 2. She is the opening act of a family strategy. The Howard Boleyn circle pushing itself into the centre of the monarchy. The Seymour family, Jane Seymour. Now look at Jane Seymour, and you can see how the court works when a faction seizes its moment. The Seymours are an established family, not nobodies, but their spectacular rise comes at exactly the moment Anne Boleyn falls. That timing is the whole story. When Henry breaks from Anne, the next queen does not come from outside the court. She comes from another family already present, already connected, already positioned to catch the crown as it drops. And Jane's family connections matter more than people realise. Jane isn't just different from Anne. Jane shares the same broad aristocratic ecosystem, the same intermarried noble world, and there is a genuine genealogical overlap often missed. Jane Seymour, Anne Boleyn, and Catherine Howard all sit within a tight web of late medieval English nobility where the same families repeatedly intermarry. The Tudor court did not contain infinite options. It was a small pool at the top, and most of them were kin somewhere if you traced far enough. But even if you set distant blood connections aside, Jane's link to the other wives becomes undeniable later. Through her, the Seymour name becomes permanently royal. Her son is Edward VI. Her brothers become kingmakers, and that matters for wife number 6. The German ducal house, Anne of Cleves. Anne of Cleves looks like the odd one out, the foreign political marriage that didn't fit. But she fits perfectly if you stop thinking in terms of love and start thinking in terms of dynastic networking. Anne comes from the ruling ducal house of her region, the kind of family that plays the same marriage chess as Catherine of Aragon's Spain, just at a different tier. Her match is part of England's attempt to maneuver within the wider European balance of power. So how is she related to the others? Not through the Howard cousin web, but through the fact that Europe's high nobility is a dense intermarriage system. Royal and ducal houses across Europe share overlapping medieval ancestry. Lines repeatedly braid back into the same older royal stocks. In that sense, Anne of Cleves belongs to the same pan-European cousinage class that Catherine of Aragon belongs to. Political marriage families whose bloodlines have been traded like alliances for centuries. And although the marriage ends, Anne of Cleves remains connected to the Tudor story as the king's sister in England, and the court continues its pattern. Henry returns to the same English clan that had already produced a queen. The Howard dynasty, again, Catherine Howard. Catherine Howard is where the web becomes unmistakable, because Catherine is not just another noble girl. She is a Howard, and her relationship to Anne Boleyn is direct enough to be the kind of fact that should stop you in your tracks. Henry executes Anne Boleyn, and then marries her close Howard relation soon after. That tells you exactly how narrow and ruthless the Tudor court can be. Families don't disappear when a queen falls. The faction may stagger, but the bloodline and ambition remain, and the same dynasties try again. Catherine Howard represents the Howard dynasty's second attempt to bind the king to their clan, and it shows how 6 wives are not 6 worlds. 2 of the 6 come from the same powerhouse family network, and they come close enough in time that it's impossible to call it coincidence. The Parr family and the Seymour link, Catherine Parr. Finally, Catherine Parr. If the earlier wives show you the court's ambition, Catherine Parr shows you the court's consolidation. Catherine Parr is a widow, experienced, politically aware, and deeply embedded in the upper nobility. Her family, the Parrs, are tied into major aristocratic lines, and she moves confidently through the networks of patronage, faith, and influence that dominate the later Tudor years. But here is the clearest how are they related link. Catherine Parr becomes connected to Jane Seymour in the most concrete way possible. After Henry dies, Catherine Parr marries Thomas Seymour, Jane Seymour's brother. So Catherine Parr becomes the sister-in-law of a previous queen, and she is pulled directly into the Seymour royal orbit, the family of Edward VI. That means in the final phase of Henry's life, and immediately after it, the story of queenship and power is still circulating around the same dynasties, Seymours and their allies, because that is who holds the levers. The real conclusion. So when someone asks, how are all of Henry VIII's wives related? The honest answer is, they're related because Tudor queenship wasn't a romance carousel, it was a family system. Catherine of Aragon represents the European royal marriage world. Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard are bound by the Howard dynasty, the same clan producing 2 queens. Jane Seymour becomes the mother of the king's heir and turns the Seymours into a royal power centre. Anne of Cleves is a political dynastic match from the European cousinage class. Catherine Parr ties herself into the Seymour orbit by marriage and becomes the final node in the same small aristocratic network. Henry VIII didn't keep choosing from all women. He kept choosing from the same families who could reach him. You have been watching Abby de Vere, The Royal Dragon Court, which is a registered trademark. All work is my own and protected under copyright and trademark law.